60 minutes here on Newsnight. Aisha Huang's Galamsey scandal deepens as state prosecutors contradict government's repatriation claims, revealing in fresh court documents that the Chinese Galamsey queen sneaked out of the country before she could be prosecuted when she was first arrested in 2017.
The Attorney General took my client away from the court. The next thing I heard the next day was that my client had been flown out of Ghana back to China or wherever. Today we are being told in the court that she sneaked out of Ghana, which is false, a blatant untruth.
More analysis and reactions shortly. Also tonight,
the continuous spike in transport fares is making life so unbearable in Ghana.
What is happening in this country? You know that anytime lorry fares are increased, it has a ripping effect.
Commuters bemoan increase in cost of living as Ghana Private Road Transport Union, will confirm that pretty shortly, is announcing a 30% hike in transport fares. We'll get details for you. Meanwhile, housing, water, electricity and fuel, among other key drivers, pushing inflation rate for the month of August to 33.9%, the highest in 21 years.
Rate of inflation higher than the national average of 33.9%. This was led by housing, water, electricity and gas, having the highest rate of inflation, 46.7%.
We'll hear from the Ghana Statistical Service. Also tonight, blatant falsehood. Former President Mahama comes under fire from governing New Patriotic Party over claims he's been denied his entitlement.
There is something very cynical about the former president's blatant falsehoods about his enjoyment of the privileges of Article 71. The conduct of former President John Dramani Mahama threatens our democracy, our peace and security.
We have details as the party describes the former president's promise to review Article 71 office holders' entitlements as mere rhetoric.
On this matter, former President Mahama is all talk and no action because he had every opportunity to repeal Article 71 as president, and as I said earlier, he failed to do so.
And after 3 years of ravaging economies around the world, there is an end in sight for COVID-19 pandemic as the WHO declares its most optimistic outlook yet on the global health crisis.
We're not there yet, but the end is in sight. If we don't take this opportunity now, we run the risk of more variants, more deaths, more disruption.
In business,
we're looking at the outlook for inflation after the month-on-month growth slowed marginally. We have details in business.
We also have sports for you and the live commentary of tonight's UEFA Champions League matches, all here on Joy 99.7 FM. But there's only one place to start tonight. It is now a full-blown scandal that could easily pass for a blockbuster Hollywood movie. For 5 years, government claimed Chinese Galamsey Queen Aisha Huang was deported after she was arrested in 2017. Then yesterday, President Akufo-Addo dropped the bombshell that she actually may have fled, claiming as the commander-in-chief, he wasn't too sure if indeed she was ever deported, insisting there is still uncertainty. But shortly thereafter, that bombshell, Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah on Newsnight last night declared there was in fact certainty. After all, Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah declared that Aisha Huang was in fact repatriated and not deported as had been claimed for 5 years. Then today, another bombshell that completely contradicts the Information Minister's declarations. State prosecutors today told the circuit courts that Aisha Huang actually sneaked out of the country by herself, averting prosecution when she was first arrested in 2017. In other words, according to the prosecutors prosecuting the Galamsey Queen after she was recently rearrested, Aisha Huang was never deported or repatriated, but rather she escaped lawful custody and sneaked out of the country before the Attorney General got the opportunity to fully prosecute her. In fact, her lawyer today challenged that view. Listen to Nkrabea Efadate, who happens to be a former Deputy Interior Minister under the Kufuor administration and a stalwart of the MPP.
Please, what happened was that I was defending Aisha Huang at High Court Criminal 1. Then, on the day that we were supposed to open our defense, the Attorney General entered nolli prosequi, which means don't prosecute. Then the Attorney General took my client away from the court. The next thing I heard the next day was that my client had been flown out of Ghana back to China or wherever, but out of Ghana. I didn't understand why the Attorney General did not allow us to finish the case. I think it was a wrong move, but they took her out of Ghana. Today we are being told in the court that she sneaked out of Ghana, which is false, a blatant untruth, an inaccurate statement which was made to the court. Very sad.
I'm delighted that Professor Aining had agreed to stay with us. Prof, I'm grateful that you stayed on. Samuel Kudita Blackwell is the Foreign Affairs spokesperson for the Minority in Parliament, ranking on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Was the first to disclose the circumstances around the deportation, if she was deported at all. Aisha Huang, I'm talking about, that she may not have been escorted. Mr. Kudita Blackwell, how much value are you placing tonight on the the state prosecutors document filed before the court?
Well, good evening, Evans. Good evening, Prof. Good evening to all your distinguished listeners. This is muddied waters, Evans. The waters are getting muddier and muddier, just like Aisha Huang has left our river bodies. It's just muddier, getting muddier by the day. If this was a Hollywood blockbuster movie, not even the record breaker Avatar will come close. This is unbelievable. And you see, Evans, to be very honest with you, I don't trust my government. Look, as a patriotic Ghanaian, it breaks my heart to say this, but I have to be honest. I have to be brutally frank. I don't know who to trust. I don't have confidence in any of these institutions, in anybody within the National Security Council, in anybody within the national security architecture. Look, Evans, I first disclosed that this so-called deportation did not follow any of the established protocols. There was no escort, that is, even if there was a deportation at all. The receiving country was not informed. They had no prior information. Aisha Huang was not physically delivered to the relevant authorities. The Chinese were informed only 2 days after, when Aisha Huang had vanished into thin air. Our embassy in China had no idea that this was going on, so that they could even send officials to the airport to look out for the so-called deportee. Look, this whole thing is a charade. That is why I insist that the only way forward is to have a credible, independent inquiry. This is a full-blown scandal, a putrefying one. Look, all those documents now in circulation, boarding pass, those who have traveled extensively know that boarding pass means nothing. Look, at the personal level, I have checked in, been given a boarding pass, and there have been emergencies, incidents, intervening events that have made it impossible for me to board my flight. And many travelers can tell you that. So even if that boarding pass that they are circulating has any validity, it is not foolproof. It is not credible evidence that Aisha Huang indeed used that boarding pass and arrived in China. That is why you escort such high-profile criminals. This is somebody who, by all accounts, has destroyed our environment, destroyed our water bodies, leads a gang. She even has a murder record. Look, the atrocities of this woman, she is not an ordinary suspect. And the state knows such high-profile targets are always escorted in any credible deportation. That didn't happen. Then it is important to also bring into perspective, Evans, our Immigration Act 2000, Act 573. When you read the Immigration Act, if this was a credible deportation, pardon me, this deportation should have proceeded on one of two grounds, either by a court order or by an order by the Minister of the Interior. None of these exist.
Well, Information Minister yesterday said it was repatriation instead, not deportation.
And yet, the senior minister told us in 2018 that this was a deportation. The president himself told us that it was a deportation and that it was a mistake. Now, the information minister who engages in Goebbelian tactics to, as it were, do damage control. Look, and sometimes ministers must recognize that your boss, the president, can have information that you don't have. You see that yesterday when we spoke, I told you that I have a sense the president was preparing for some soft landing. He was trying to create what they call plausible deniability. And that is why today you see the prosecution's case, which is beginning to tally with the president's U-turn, the president's new position, different from the president's 2018 position, which 2019 position, September 2019, which he espoused in Princeton. So we have a situation now where even this claim of repatriation, it cannot be, because repatriation, there must be some agreement. And I have told you on authority that the Chinese were not contacted. And why will you even opt for repatriation, be having the agreement, the consent of this criminal? Now it is even beginning to emerge, Evans, when you listen to the prosecutors today. What we were told, that the state filed nolle prosequi and that the Chinese leaned on us, and because of economic bilateral relations, Sino-Hydro loan and all of that, our economic interest, that is why this this Galamsey Queen had to be let off the hook. The gospel, according to Senior Minister, the Honorable Osafumafu. Now what is emerging is that it is possible that she escaped. And because government did not want a bigger embarrassment of how come she escaped, and so, because that's what we are being told today. If you read the prosecution's case carefully,
that she sneaked out averting prosecution.
Yes, that she sneaked out averting prosecution. So because she sneaked out, they could not prosecute her. That's what the state is saying now. And it's grave. So, I mean, we have been lied to all along. All along.
I mean, but I've heard some lawyers say possibly the prosecutors were just saying this because they wanted the court to agree with them that she's a flight risk. And so maybe this was just some, as I say, flying the kite, not necessarily grounded on any real fact.
Look, that possibility appears far-fetched, because if you look at all the circumstances, how they went about this so-called removal, this so-called deportation, the absence of a court order, the absence of an executive instrument from the Minister of the Interior. She was not declared persona non grata. I mean, we know the processes that are followed. She was not escorted. The Chinese authorities were not giving any prior information. As we speak, Evans, the state has not been able to provide Aisha Huang's passport document with a stamp. We all know when you arrive in a country, there is a stamp, arrival stamp. That is more credible than a boarding pass. That's a boarding pass, and it was a boarding pass. Anybody can check in and not proceed. And you know that there is no direct flight from Accra to Guangzhou or Accra to Beijing. So you must escort the person necessarily if you are really serious about deportation or repatriation or whatever you want to call it. Now we have a situation where she had virtually 3 hours to herself, if even there was an attempt to deport her. 3 hours in Addis Ababa for somebody with this kind of network, with allies in top places in our institutions, she will get away. And that is why I was convinced from day one that there was more to this story than government was telling the Ghanaian people.
Samuel Kututa-Blakwa, thank you very much. Let me bring in Professor Enin very. Prof, so this is where we are. What should happen now with everything that we now know?
Well, we are facing a trust deficit of such humongous proportions that no one in this country right now trusts what is coming from official sources. It's clear that those that we've entrusted to protect us are afraid of something that this woman knows or has, and therefore have been lying to us and have possibly lied to the president. I think it's up to the president to ask the tough questions and to make some heads roll. If one individual can come into our country, collude with Ghanaian officials appointed to protect us in trust and to ensure that we can leave something for generations yet unborn, and allow this woman, or in connivance with her, to destroy our natural resources to this extent, and her cousin to steal 6 million rosewood trees, then the edifice of Ghana and its institutions have been hollowed out to such an extent that Mr. President has no other option than to crack the whip right now. Otherwise, I think the trust that is gone will pose veritable problems for us. So, Mr. President, please, I know how difficult it must have been for you to say you weren't sure. And because you were honest with us, please, deal with those who have failed you and failed your trust and the trust of the people of Ghana. That will be the beginning of regaining people's confidence and probably regaining people's loyalty to this state. Right now, we are at a very low point and at a very low end.
Professor Kwesi Enin, Samuel Kututa-Blakwa, thank you very much. I will take your thoughts pretty shortly on this development, 055-1111-997. The major story tonight. Commuters are bemoaning the increase in cost of living as the Ghana Private Road Transport Union announces a 30% hike in transport fares. Users of public transport will from Wednesday, September 21st, pay at least 30% more following an upward adjustment in fares. In a communique he released earlier today, the union explained the decision follows a successful consultation with its mother body and cited the rise in the cost of fuel and spare parts as a basis for the action. We'll speak with the GPL to you shortly, but first listen to some commuters who say the hikes in transport fares will only make their lives more unbearable.
The continuous spike in transport fares is making life so unbearable in Ghana. I mean, you are literally spending all your time trying to make ends meet, and after you are able to accumulate just something to hold on to, the next morning you wake up, you hear that transfer fares are high. And in fact, now taking trotro is just like ordering for a boat. It is totally bad.
I believe this is about the third time transport fares are going up this year alone, and it's not even December. And more than 80% of my little income goes into transportation. So I don't even have enough money for other things, I want to do with this. So transport fares going up again is actually sad.
What is happening in this country? You know that anytime lorry fares are increased, it has a ripping effect on the costs and the prices of commodities in the markets and the general, livelihood of the people.
I think the news of 30% increment in transport fares, effective 7 days away, is an unfortunate one.
Well, Samuel Lamoa is a member of the GPRT's communications team, and he joins us on the telephone line right now. Samuel, can you please confirm this 30% increase?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say good evening to your listeners. Yes, it's true. Transport operators have come together, not only GPRT, but the coalition has now decided that effective from 21st of this month, that will be coming Wednesday, transport fares will be increased by 30%. The reason being that the major component that we use to run our business is the petrol product. And it has gone very high. Also spare parts, lubricants, and other taxes. You know, by the time we had our transport fare increment, by then the diesel was about 11 cedis, 27 pesos per liter. And looking at where it is now diesel is being sold for 14 cedis, 50 pesos a liter, which means that per the agreement we had with the government, that anytime the fuel is being increased by 10% threshold, then we, the transport operators, also has to come up with upward adjustment of our transport fares.
Was this done in consultation with the government? I know the last time that's what happened.
Come again, please.
Was this done in consultation with the transport ministry?
Yes. Are you talking of the agreement we had?
No, I'm talking about the 30% increase you just announced.
Yeah, the 30% increment is now a proposed one. Yes, we are yet to meet the transport ministry to have a deliberation on it before we finally come out. But per our calculations, you know, on where the fuel price is now, the spare parts and other components that we are using to run our business, that is why we also did our calculation, and we are coming up with this 30%.
Yeah, I mean, so for clarity, Mr. Amwa, this 30% you say is a proposal. It could reduce by the time you consult the government.
Well, as we normally do, we are working directly with the transport ministry. There is no way we can come out with an increment without consulting the government. So this is a proposed one that we are sending it to the transport ministry for a discussion. So hopefully it may happen that, yes, maybe they will agree or maybe there will be some reduction. For that one, I can't confirm it for now. But what I can say is the 30% is a proposed one. It's not something that has been agreed together with the transport operators and the government as we normally do.
Thank you very much, Samuel. So this is proposed 30% increase. Let's qualify that properly as they go in for a conversation with the government. Talking about that possible increase in transport fares and the increase in prices generally, one more product that you can expect an increase is price of sachet water. The National Association of Sachet and Packed Water Producers this week announced another increase in the price of both sachet and bottled water effective Monday. That's 19th September. According to the association, a bag of sachet water, that is a 500 ml by 30 pesos, 30 pieces, is to be sold at 7 cedis maximum from the retail trucks. Mini shops, however, will retail the commodity at 9 cedi per bag maximum. Take a listen to the reaction from a section of the public.
30 pesos before. The increase is to 40 pesos. 3 days today. Now I'm hearing that they are going to sell it 50 pesos. This is very bad. I think the government have to do something about it.
It's going to affect me because I do take in 3-4 sachets a day, and imagine 2 cedis a day. Even not a day, maybe it can even increase to 3 cedis. How possible? No.
It's just now where they increase the pay water to 40 pesos and they want to increase it to 50 pesos. Like how? That means that we have to go back to our villages and stay for there. It's not fair. The way the economy is going, I think they have to second the country and share the money to us.
The way the economy is very hard now, I think it should stabilize the price to 40 pesos. A little increase in the price will cause something, I think. I don't know what will happen.
I will hear a bit more from you pretty shortly on a WhatsApp console, but let's stay with the subject, the theme of price increases, because housing, water, electricity, and fuel are the top key drivers that push the inflation rate for the month of August to 33.9%, the highest in 21 years. Now, relative to July 2022, a year-on-year inflation increased by 2.2% percentage points in August 2022, and month-on-month inflation reduced by 2.2 percentage points over the same period. Listen to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Inim.
We do disaggregation starting with the 13 divisions, keeping again in mind that the national average for rate of inflation for the month of August 2022 stood at 33.9%. We identified 6 items that recorded rate of inflation higher than the national average of 33.9%. This was led by housing, water, electricity, and gas, having the highest rate of inflation, 46.7%, followed closely by transport, 45.7%, and up to food and non-alcoholic beverages being the 6th item that recorded rate of inflation higher than the national average of 33.9%. On a month-on-month basis, again, across the 13 divisions, we identify 5 items that recorded rate of inflation higher than the national average, again with housing, water, electricity, and gas recording the highest rate of 3.6%, followed by household equipment, furnishing, and other routine maintenance recording a rate of 2.7% on a month-on-month basis for August 2022.
John Foster Jaho is the head of price statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service and joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Jaho, so from what I'm reading, it's slowing down, is it not?
Yes. Good evening to you and good evening to our cherished listeners. I think for this month, we have seen some relief. We can see that the rates are slowing.
And which factors are contributing to this slow rate? I mean, I see that electricity is coming in very strongly, obviously because of the recent increases in tariffs. But which factors are contributing to this positive outcome?
In fact, maybe just one quick point to make. Even though you are seeing electricity strongly in this month inflation, remember the effective date for the increase in the utility tariffs, I think, took effect from the 1st of September.
Yes.
If that is the case, then the full effect of it is yet to be recorded. However, even though we saw a surge in food prices, but I think you can see that the food contribution to total inflation remained the same as recorded last month. So by and large, we can say that the effect of the harvest season is being fed. It's trying to control the increases in the other areas.
Finally, looking ahead, this slowing of inflation, rate of inflation, is it going to continue, or we can expect it to revert to what it used to be when we were galloping?
You know, like I keep saying, looking at the season that we are, I mean, where we're having harvest, would have said yes. I mean, that is the norm, that's the trend. But you know, other policies that may come to play. So if indeed for last 2 weeks or last week we started recording utility tariffs, we are picking signal. I mean, I don't know how true it is that transport fares are likely to go up. When those things come to play, then we may probably revert to what used to be the norm.
I'm grateful, Mr. Ajao, for your time there. Let me hear from you, people. This is something that affects you very, very directly. And so share with me what your experiences have been. I'll share with the rest of the world after business still ahead. Blatant falsehood. Former President Mahama comes under fire from governing New Patriotic Party over claims he's been denied his entitlements.
There is something very cynical about the former president's blatant falsehoods about his enjoyment of the privileges of Article 71. The conduct of former President John Dramani Mahama threatens our democracy, our peace, and security.
We have details as the party describes the former president's promise to review Article 71 of his holders' entitlements as mere rhetoric.
On this matter, former President Mahama is all talk and no action because he had every opportunity to repeal Article 71 as president, and as I said earlier, he failed to do so.
Details plus your views after business with George.
Hi, Evans, and coming up in business, inflation rate growth for month of August slows marginally despite hitting 33.9%. To explore the impact of this on the outlook. And Tall Oil's half-year profits hit $209 $264 million as the company makes significant progress with its finances and operations since last year. We're getting you more details on that one. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Inflation rate growth from July to August this year slowed marginally to reach 1.9% from the over 3% posted in last month. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, this is the first time this year that we've seen the month-on-month growth slow to this rate. But is this a sign that the persistent increase in inflation rate is ending? Professor Samakobninin is government statistician.
In as much as all those challenges are confronting us, we should also look at some positives that are happening in terms of government interventions. From our point of view, when we see the behavior across the 13 divisions, we see some divisions that really, and we did say that in July, that are fairly stabilizing, whereas some other divisions are going up. So one to come up with when it's going to peak or otherwise, a very detailed analysis at the disaggregated level based on the divisions and based on the regions is critical before we can say that we're not going to peak until December or we're going to peak at a later date.
The Ghana Statistical Service normally measures inflation on a year-on-year basis as well as the month-on-month. Whilst on the year-on-year basis, it reached 33.9%, meaning that the rate of increase from August last year to this year. Whilst on the month-on-month, it reached this 1.9%. The Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Akoto, has insisted that government's flagship program, that is the Planting for Food and Jobs, has yielded what it intended to do. The session comes after the Peasant Farm Association of Ghana criticized some aspects of the implementation of the program, blaming it on high foodstuffs prices across the country. But addressing this issue, Dr. Akoto maintained that the increase in production of basic foodstuffs shows the program is a success.
Maize production increased from 1.72 million metric tons to 1.72 million metric tons to 3.58 million metric tons, representing an increase of over 100%. The rise from 687,000 to over 1 million metric tons, that's over 56%. Soya from 143,000 to 221,000.
Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Akoto, speaking at the Science and Partnership for Agriculture Conference organized by the Forum of Agricultural Research in Africa. Now, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union is set to meet this Friday over moves to increase fares. Sources close to the union maintains that it is yet to take a firm decision on whether fares should be going up and even by what margin. Some executives of the organized union say majority of commercial drivers, that represents majority of commercial drivers in the country, have maintained that a lot of factors goes into the reviewing of prices and not just with fuel prices going up. Now, Tullow Oil has made some significant turnaround in its finances and operations ending June this year. This was after its half-year profits after tax went up by more than 180% to reach $264 million ending June this year. There is more in this report.
The report showed that the strong growth in the company's earnings was fueled by pickup in the production from the country's oil fields, as well as higher oil prices on the international market. Tullow Oil's revenue, for instance, reached $845 million as it sold each barrel of crude from its field at around $87. Tullow Oil also pegged average production of crude on the field at around 82,000 barrels a day for the first 6 months of this year. The oil exploration firm in April started a program to drill more than 10 new wells from the Jubilee and 10 area and says it has so far completed work on 5 of them and is hoping to do 5 more wells in the coming months. Despite the recent opposition to merge with Capricorn Energy to create one of the biggest oil exploration firms in Africa, Tullow Oil noted that it was hopeful of completing the deal by the end of this year. For some, the developments showed that Tullow has indeed turned the corner in terms of financials, coming from a previous year that was recording losses in its operations. A strong growth in Talu's profits may also impact on the taxes that it pays to the country going forward.
And that was the business desk report. Meanwhile, speaking from Talu headquarters in London with investors around the world, Group Chief Executive Rahude has been talking about some exciting times ahead despite some tough decisions he has to take going forward.
Any single well doesn't change the overall sort of picture. We have another well in that riser base area we're going to drill later this year. And then we have, other wells sort of planned in different parts of 10. I think the key to remind ourselves in 10 is that we have a very large undeveloped resource, and we just need to kind of improve the infrastructure there and continue the drilling program. I think the key for us is that whether it's the second rig, whether it's acceleration of Jubilee, whether it's 10 enhancement, gas commercialization, all of these things really is a capital allocation decision that Richard and his team will do. And if oil prices are sustained, I think we can bring these things forward. If we go ahead with the Capricorn merger, we can bring these things forward. So really, in a very simple sense, there's a lot more we can do with the business with more capital, and the capital can come from different sources. We're not fussed about that.
Group Chief Executive of Talu Oil, Rahude, speaking from London to investors across the world after releasing its half-year numbers. Now, Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Mishadai Ozoma, has affirmed his office commitment in meeting its 2022 revenue target. Speaking at the 12th annual general meeting of the Ghana Revenue Authority Cooperative Credit Union, he said that though the revenue projection has been revised downwards to 72 billion Ghana cedi during the media adjustment, the authority is working hard to hit this target.
As you are aware, in the media, this target was revised to 72, but we as a tax authority is still focusing on the 80.3 billion, and we are making very, very steady progress, and therefore we want to commit to assure Ghanaians that we are working towards the 80.3 billion and want to encourage every taxpayer to take the opportunity and make sure that they pay their taxes. Even though the times are hard, if you look at various opportunities that you have, you should be able to settle it, because we still need the taxes to be able to make the times better. And therefore, we cannot say that because times are hard, we will not pay our taxes.
And that is Reverend Amishada Usomwa. He is the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. To the stock market, GCB was down by 5 pesos today, and is worth 4 Ghana cedi, and also that of Mega Africa Capital lost a peso to close at 5 Ghana cedis, 38 pesos. And that's some news from the Ghana Stock Exchange in terms of trading on the floor today. That's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans.
Thank you very much, George. And I want to share with you a few of your messages now on the WhatsApp console. This one from Kingsford says, are we importing water from Russia too? I can't think far to buy 1 bag of sachet water for 9 cedis. I pray for things to change for better in Ghana, he says. And this one says, who is this Aisha Huang, or how powerful is she? I wish I had the answer, but I don't. Another one here, a view that was expressed and sent to us from Clement, says Ghana is bigger than this short man. Well, he has his own very strong views there on the issues that surrounds Aisha Huang. Sami says Aisha Huang has been destroying our forest reserves and water bodies to extract gold. When the laws found her out, she was set free. Sadly, Ghanaians who have committed similar offenses are in jail. He also questions the leadership of the country. And this one, this says it's amazing how leadership is managing affairs. Are we getting to an era where we will have to import water because of common Chinese citizen who has shown us the lapses within our governance system? It's a view that he shares. And a very final one on the subject of inflation. Walanyo says, Evans, we, the single parents, are really not happy about the price increases of everything in the country. Where are we going and how are we going to live and take care of our children in school? They are killing us slowly. a few of your views there on the stories tonight. Now, tonight, the New Patriotic Party is taking aim at former President John Mahama over his recent comments about salaries and other entitlements of Article 71 office holders. The former president, in an interview with an Accra-based media house, claimed he pays his domestic staff and said he did not receive any payment as ex gratia. But Director of Communications of the MPP, Richard Ahiagba, has accused the former president of engaging in blatant falsehood.
I am sure you watched the former president's interview where he said that the government does not take care of his expenses as a former president and beneficiary of Article 71. He said he takes care of all his bills, including his rented office and staff salaries. But is it the truth that the former president is denied his entitlement as provided by law? We have evidence between the former president's office and the chief of staff office contradicting the claim. We also have letters from the office of the former president introducing his staff and who he has presented for the state to pay. We have correspondence from the office of the chief of staff facilitating the payment of these salaries. There is something very cynical about the former president's blatant falsehoods about his enjoyment of the privileges of Article 71. The conduct of former President John Dramani Mahama threatens our democracy, our peace, and security. So the question is that, what is former President Mahama seeking to achieve with these needless falsehoods? Could it be that he wants to pretend to become the champion of the genuine concerns of some Ghanaians to want Article 71 repealed? Evidence of this rather unholy politics of the former presidents abound.
Richard Ahiagba joins us in the studio right now. We expect him to be speaking to Felix Kwachufosu, who works in the office of the former president, pretty shortly. Richard, was it really necessary to release these details of the entitlements and what has been paid and what is about to be paid of the former president and his office?
Thank you, Felix. Sorry, Evans. I have not participated in the release of any such documents. In fact, if you listen to our press conference, I was careful to say that it was needless. In fact, that we were not going to participate in that venture to circulate those documents. So even though we had copies for our own evidence, the basis for which we did the press conference, we didn't give to any journalist to continue that circulation. We didn't think it was fair to the individual.
Nonetheless, it was the primary basis of your questioning of the former president's claims.
Yeah, I mean, evidence. You use evidence in your work, Evans. So we have evidence that the former president is not being entirely fair to the truth. And so we had responsibility to clear it, because it was not only to just clear the air, it was also to establish the point that no government can deny what the law provides for. And that was the basis for it. So we're actually in this conversation trying to ensure, insofar as the Article 71 is not repealed, its benefit must be accorded those who deserve it or those who've earned it.
The question is, I mean, these pronouncements have been made by her and those who work for him, as made by him and those who work for him recently. Are they arrears? When did you start paying? Was it fairly this year? Then that will explain. He's been out of office for quite a while now. Do you have those details?
I don't have those details, and if he has those details, he should tell us. But when he made that comment, he didn't refer to if he was just paid today. He made a comment that he wasn't given. But what we know is that he's been given.
As in, when is he given? As in
his office, the office where
they've been enjoying it.
He said he had rented his own office. The evidence doesn't support that position.
Did the state rent the office for him?
Yes. It says the documents we have, to the extent that those documents are valid from where they come from, he has been paid for. The office that he's using has been paid for.
By the state?
By the state. The conversation that he pays his own staff, The evidence we have suggests that the state pays for them. And it's not because he's done anything untoward. That is how it ought to be. But he's presenting a picture to us to suggest that he's been denied that. And we're interested in ensuring that the law is abided by.
I mean, his bigger point is that the Article 71, regulations deserve to be reviewed. There are many who share that view. Anytime the matter had come up, public just get upset. You say his points is rhetoric. Why do you say that?
Because he had a chance to repeal it, and he didn't.
Yeah, but that's his up to 2016. He's been out of office now for 6 years. No, but he may have changed his mind.
No. His government assented to the proposals or the recommendation of the Constitutional Review Commission.
That was when he was in power.
When he was in power.
Yeah, my point is he's been out of office for 6 years.
But
he may have changed his position.
No, Evans, let's not cut him that slack. If you are president and you believe in something, you do it.
Yeah, he believed in it then. He may have changed his mind 6 years
No, but he hasn't told us he's changed his mind. He said that he wanted to do it. Even when he was in office, he went to, I think it was a labor conference somewhere, that he said that Labour should support him to repeal it. He didn't need Labour to support him to repeal it. He needed to take a step. He needed to submit a bill to Parliament, acting on the white paper of his government. He was the vice president.
You're saying that when he was in office, he asked Labour to help him repeal it?
Yeah. There was this conference somewhere.
Yeah, but if that's the case, you're confirming then that at least he had expressed an intention to do so, which is consistent with what he's just expressing.
That's what I'm saying, that intention, he had the power to act on that intention. He didn't need anybody's help, at least to take the step that he must take. Only he, the executive president of this country at the time, had that responsibility to act before other people came in. So if he had acted and the bill had gone through the process to where it's going to a referendum and is asking for people's support to have it pass referendum, then that's a different conversation. He needed to take a primary step, and that primary step, according to the Constitution, is for him to submit a bill to Parliament stating his intention to act on the white paper that the government issued to say that we want to repeal that part of the Constitution. Then Parliament then will act by sending it to Council of State. They bring it back, Gazette, go back and EC, conduct a referendum.
And very finally, Richard,
but he didn't do that.
So your party's in power. What's your position on whether to review or not review Article 71?
Well, I mean, that is a serious conversation that we must have. I'm interested. I personally have my position on the matter, but the idea of this conversation is that there's a former president who had every means to do the repeal, didn't do it. He is not any strong...
Yeah, but
I'm coming.
He's expressed his view on the matter.
He can't eat his cake and have it. Yeah. What he's doing is that he's failed to do the thing, and he's trying to set up a conversation for us to say that we must talk about it. The question we must deal with in his context is to say that when you had the opportunity, why didn't you do it? He should tell us the difficulty.
You've made the point. I'm asking a different question. I mean, having said all that, what is your position on it? Independent of your party's position, independent of what the former president may have said or not said. What is your position on that as a party?
As far as I'm concerned, we have not crystallized the position on the matter, but he appears to have crystallized the position. His government appear to have had a conclusive view of what to do with Article 71. And our question is that why haven't they acted on it? Okay. And today he's pretending as if he's now discovering the issue.
Okay. Richard, I'm grateful that you join us in the studio. I'm still listening to News Night on Joy 99.7 FM. Tonight, the end is in sight, and you can have a long sigh of relief because the World Health Organization has declared its most optimistic outlook yet on the COVID-19 pandemic. The health agency declared an international emergency, you remember, in January 2020 and started describing COVID-19 as a pandemic 3 months later. Needless to say, it has wreaked a lot of havoc. In Ghana, 1,459 people have died from the virus. Earlier today at a news conference, the WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said deaths from COVID-19 last week were the lowest since March 2020, but urged nations to maintain the vigilance.
Last week, the number of weekly reported deaths from COVID-19 was the lowest since March 2020. We have never been in a better position to end the pandemic. We're not there yet, but the end is in sight. A marathon runner does not stop when the finish line comes into view. She runs harder with all the energy she has left. So must we. We can see the finish line. We are in a winning position, but now is the worst time to stop running. Now is the time to run harder and make sure we cross the line and reap the rewards of all our hard work. If we don't take this opportunity now, we run the risk of more variants, more deaths, more disruption, and more uncertainty. So let's seize this opportunity.
Dr. John Amoisi is with the KCCR public health expert, joins us on the Zoom right now. Dr. Amoisi, so hooray! Time to pop the champagne, ending sight. You agree?
Great question, Evans. Good evening to you and to everyone who's listening. Well, I'd say maybe time to bring out the champagne, but not to pop it per se, as you heard from the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros. The end is in sight. He didn't say we've crossed the finish line, so not so fast. I mean, if you look at the statistics, first week in September, there was about just about 44 deaths every second from COVID. This is global, right? So it's still pretty high, but what Dr. Tedros was emphasizing is that it's better than it's ever been since March 2020. And given the current trend and given the tools that we have available, we can stamp this out once and for all. And take note, when he said, we will get over this. Maybe I shouldn't use express and stamp it out per se, but we can get over a pandemic, the label of pandemic, because there's every indication that this disease would still be around with us for a while and would manifest as your classic seasonal flu, for which maybe shots might be required every now and then to protect people. And so it's really important to put this in the right context. So just generally what he's trying to say is that things are looking good, and if we keep at what we're doing, we should be in a much better place sooner than later. It's important to know that the WHO panel of experts, or the advisory group, is going to be sitting in October to decide whether to maintain this still as a pandemic. The same is going to happen in the US. They'll be sitting, I think, towards the end of October to review the status of COVID-19 to determine whether it should still be labeled a pandemic or not. They've been renewing this every quarter in the US. So October is really a crucial month, because if it gets that label of a pandemic or a public health emergency of international concern, if I put it that way, if that label is removed, it opens up a whole wide range of activities, both economic and other, or activities that would have important economic implication. So October is the month to watch, because it has a lot of technical relevance.
Dr. Amoisi, I'm grateful. I'm definitely getting my champagne. I'll wait for you, as you say, before I pop it, possibly after October. Enjoy the rest of your evening, people. This has been Newsnight.